Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call this meeting to order of the Oakville Public Library Board for Thursday, the 15th of June, 2023. Members of the board, sorry, Madam Committee Clerk, are there any regrets this evening?
We have regrets from Councillor Chisholm.
Okay, thank you. Any declarations of pecuniary interest this evening? I'm not seeing any. Before we actually get into our meeting, I'd like to read the territorial acknowledgement before the proceedings begin. The Oakville Public Library is situated on the Treaty Number 14 and Treaty Number 22 treaty lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Oakville is currently home to many different First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Regardless of where we come from, we are all interconnected through the land we live on, the water that we use, and the air that we breathe. We are committed to a continuous learning journey and allyship. We seek to elevate Indigenous voices and lived experience to cultivate reconciliation in Oakville. Members of the board, you have been previously circulated your minutes of the previous meeting. We did not have a confidential meeting, so just the public meeting from May 18th. What's your pleasure on that? Is there a motion to approve those? I hope there is. Thank you very much. Rebecca, is there a seconder, please? Andrew, thank you. All in favor? They're carried. We have two items on our consent agenda. The first one is the key agenda items for the board, and the second one is the health and safety report. Would anybody like those separated? If not, can I get a motion to approve those items as consent? Thank you, Bill. Seconded by? Thank you very much, Meredith. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We do not have any confidential consent items, and we move on to our discussion items, starting with 6.1, the collection development update.
So continuing on the board's journey deep dive into collections, we had our digital landscape report previously, and this one is more of a current update, speaking to some of the challenges that we're facing as collections evolve in public libraries. In particular, our demand for multilingual, the children's collection has been an ongoing challenge for us. Digital collections, as was highlighted in the report previously, continue to be a challenge, as well as the growth in demand of what in the library industry is called the library of things. Things as are highlighted, the park passes, the life jackets, the sport kits, anything that's non-traditional, there is increasing demand. I get requests for things like CO2 detectors, fishing kits, bike tools, baking pans, things that people don't need on a regular basis but want to be able to access. And there are libraries throughout North America that offer all of those. So there are examples out there, but again, it can be challenging to fund those. And to date, as was indicated in the report, we've been cannibalizing our own collection budget to fund these additional collections, as well as using the surplus that we've been lucky enough to have over the number of years. However, our goal is not to have such large surpluses moving forward. So then how can we better plan for these budget challenges around collections moving forward? And so this report is in advance of the budget drivers report that will come in July that will really indicate to the board what are the key drivers behind the building of the 2024 budget. And this will play a role in that. And we will be asking as part of our budget request to the board in September or October of this year for $100,000 increase to that budget moving forward over the next 5 years, where we'll be able to do another analysis and kind of sort that out. It is a very detailed report, so I'm happy to take questions.
Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. I'll state that again. Members of the board, do you have questions? Celso.
Sounds like I always have questions. I think I have too many. With regards to the library of things, I think it's a fantastic concept, and it probably can draw more users, which is ultimately our goal, right? Correct. So, but the question in terms of the budget is it possible that there may be an impact in terms of the personnel? Because do you need specialists or any kind of different type of people that, in addition to be knowledgeable in books and how to, advise the public on that, we'll have to advise on tech and life jackets and whatnot. Is there a budget component for personnel training in addition?
There definitely could be. To date, we've been lucky enough to have partnerships that have helped with that. For example, the life jackets, we partner with Recreation and Culture. They actually select the life jackets for us. They actually clean them for us as well. So it's a partnership that's managed to work. One thing that we're also working to introduce is cognitive care kits for people to exercise their brain the same way they exercise their body. We're working with Acclaim Health to kind of develop those and use their knowledge to do that. However, there is a switch that we are seeing with staff, particularly around the ongoing maintenance of some of these devices, particularly the technology, or even how to display them properly, how to package them properly. Because a lot of the new kits, particularly the Tinker toys that we want to expand, or the loanable laptops that we want to start lending out, how do we package those where they're safe and secure when they go home, and how do we ensure that all the pieces come back? So there is definitely increased staffing resources that need to be dedicated to those types of pieces. We're lucky enough to have, our tech team is expanding, so they'll be able to assist more and more with the technology requirements of some of the pieces that are coming as demand. But I think the majority, what we'd be looking for would be form those partnerships. For example, like the bike tools, there are bike groups in the community that we would look to partner with. If we choose to do gardening tools, we'd speak with Oakville Greens or Halton Environmental Network, because I'm not sure we need long-term knowledge for that. I think if they can share their knowledge with us, that would be enough. But that's not to say that there might be other staffing requirements in order to circulate, maintain, and just process.
Yeah, I guess asked in a different way is what we wouldn't want to do is ask for the 100,000 to expand the library offering, but then have to find more money later on because we don't have enough staffing for the idea that we first proposed.
Yeah.
So the question is really, is 100,000 sufficient?
Yeah, and that also what Joe's team has been doing, and it was I think at some point it was hinted in there in that the surplus that we've had over the past number of years is due to gapping, and we've had significant vacancies in the collections department that we've been holding because we're restructuring to better support the Library of Things. So they've been introducing new positions, brand new positions, where it's written into their job description, this more increased knowledge, moving away from where it was just books and digital content to kind of take this into account, that we're dealing more with physical, non-traditional physical items. So we are counting that in terms of a restructure within that department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. So next up is Andrew.
Thank you. I want to focus on the ebook collection specifically. When I look at the variance to past year's budgets, we're spending on average over $100,000 on ebooks alone. So I'm questioning the $100,000 per year figure in terms of how that would barely accommodate just our ebook needs at this point.
So which page?
Page 9, sorry.
Page what, sorry?
Page 9 of 13.
Okay, sorry, I was looking at the bottom, which is page 21 of 70. Gotcha.
So, in summary, 100,000 doesn't seem like nearly enough.
It's the minimum. But recognizing the fact that there will be significant budget pressures this year, there'll be significant budget pressures next year. As we go to open the permanent 60-mile branch, the increase to the operating budget in 2025 will be significant. This was what we identified as what we would need to continue to not necessarily maintain the status quo, but allow us to because previously we never budgeted for the Library of Things. We've cannibalized that from other areas that we might be spending a little less in, for example, CDs, and be able to kind of shift that, as well as other areas. So the 100,000 would just allow us to plan better and kind of increase areas over time. So what we're looking for is not, it's 100,000 in 2024. It's another 100,000, which would continue to allow us. And I think it's drawn out one of the things here, how we would assign that to the different groups in order to grow that collection budget over time, to actually get it to where we need, which would be 5 years from now.
Okay. Coming back to the ebooks again, is there any development at all in terms of conversations with the publishers on the fees that they're charging and the terms?
So not that I know of. I haven't heard anything. I know that there's ongoing conversations. I'm not part of that group. They normally give us updates 2 or 3 times a year. They gave us the last one in January. I would hope that we would get another one in the next couple months. I know that they were, the last report that I highlighted, the different approaches that they were looking at, different, whether that be bringing forward federal legislation or provincial legislation, but that, a lot of that, it's a long road because we need to get in to see the minister, we need to get different ministries to agree, and the challenge, again, is that we could fall under at least 3 or 4 different ministries, and to date, they've all been like, that's not us, that's this. That's not us, that's this. We are starting to make progress. My understanding is that 1 or 2 of the ministers or ministers' assistants have come back and asked for more information. So we are gaining ground, but it is a marathon, not a sprint.
Got it. Okay. Can I request an update on that at the next meeting if possible, if there's any information? Thank you. Okay.
That's it. Thank you, Andrew. Further questions on this report? Thank you, Meredith. You're up. And then.
Just 2 separate questions. So the first one was about the discussion about the high usage of children's print materials, which is understandable. And I do recall, that there's quite a lot of books being donated through the Friendly Finds, et cetera. And I was just curious if any of those books that are donated are ever reviewed to be incorporated into the library's collection.
They are evaluated. When they come in, they go up to a sorting room, and we do have sorters that go through it, and I do identify particular authors or titles that they know and put those aside. Then they move down to collections, and collection reviews them, and then they get added to the collection if possible.
Okay, so that is a source of collections, like an in-kind, like source of
Correct.
Collections for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say a lot of them are not in a condition we would put in.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. And then I did also just a quick question about the Library of Things, and I apologize if I missed it, but is there some kind of opportunity for us to see like the usage rate, like when you do offer like lacrosse kits or gardening kits, like is it generally like a wait list, like they're always used, or is it like we have all these offerings, but some are used more than others?
No, we can actually provide that. A lot of those kits tend to be more spontaneous. So people kind of go in, grab them, particularly like things like the multi-sport kit at Iroquois Ridge that circulates really, really well because there's a giant park next door. So people will run over, grab the kit, and take it out. I don't even know, I'll have to check. We may not even allow holds on them, whereas like park passes and such that we would, but we can definitely provide you with maybe an overview of the last, I was gonna say 2 or 3 years, but we can look and see what we can do with our COVID and post-COVID data, because I think we introduced them just before, but we can take a check.
Yeah, okay. I think it just, especially if it's related to an increased budget, it'd be really great to see that there is like high demand, and that there would continue to be a high demand if we increase those collections in those particular areas.
Yeah. Although I will point out, we're not necessarily looking to increase those collections, but add other ones.
Right, yes.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying in terms of, do we add more sport kits when our current sport kits aren't that
Yeah,
popular?
or does the public know that this is a resource available to them, right? And that they're thinking of the library for these types of things.
Correct, yes. Okay.
Thanks, Meredith. Avis?
So it's a great report. It was really helpful to me, and looking at all the metrics that was in there. I do have a question on table 1, the metric regarding spending per capita. Do you have data around the other comparative libraries or communities in the same metric?
So you're asking about whether or not we have other data for other libraries other than those that are included?
So the specific metric of spending per capita, I didn't actually see that for the other libraries.
Oh, we have it for digital spending, but we didn't pull it out for full collection spending, and that's what you're asking for,
yes,
correct?
I was just wondering, like, compared to the $4.04 adjusted for inflation, how do the other communities compare?
Yeah, we can do that. I can send that to you. I sent that out. Yeah.
Thanks, Avis. Further questions on this report? Bill?
Yeah, I'm just, when I was going through this, I was just wondering why, or how, not why, but how some of these other communities are spending a higher percentage of their operating expenditures on collection material over what Oakville is doing. I'm just wondering how, do you have any idea how they're actually doing that? Like, what's the trade-off?
I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
We could certainly have some conversations with, for example, Barrie, which is a very small community up there, is outspending us significantly across 3 different libraries, whereas we have 7.
Right.
I can have a conversation with the CEO up there and just kind of see whether or not, is it just increased funding or do they have other pieces? I'm not sure what they would be, but we can have that conversation.
Right. Because the other thing I was thinking was, if I look at, okay, there's like 7 communities there or something like that, or 6. And I mean, so, you know, it looks like the other ones are spending more. But I was just wondering, there's probably, well, obviously there's a lot more communities in Oakville. And I was just wondering where we might sit sort of in the grand scale. But it's probably difficult to get that kind of information, I would think.
No, the province gathers that. So all public libraries in Ontario have to report data to the province in order to receive our provincial grant. So they have it, and that's where this is all pulled from. We tend to use these comparator libraries for just about everything. We try and be consistent. We've identified them for the master plan. These are the comparators they're using as well. They're similar in demographics. They're similar in size. So that's why we kind of do it. I can absolutely provide you information for Toronto, but there's a significant scale difference. Because Markham, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, like we have the data for all the GTA. It would be overwhelming to look at everybody. So we just try and pick the same comparators and use them consistently.
Okay. And the last thing is the 100,000, is that mostly for the Library of Things, or is this 100,000 for collections overall?
It's for collections overall. If you turn to page 26 of 70 or page 12 of 13, the collection plan, it highlights how the $100,000 would see those budget lines increase over time.
Right, okay.
So it would really be divided between adult print, juvenile print, audiovisual, juvenile, and those, and you can see that some of them will get significantly more money than others for adult fiction. Okay. We actually do quite well. We have an endowment that helps us fund that already, the Jack and Jill Wood endowment. But you can see that juvenile would get a significant bump. So the percentages of the 100,000 would be divided up between those different buckets.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Further questions? I have a quick one. With respect to the adding donated books to the collection, is there a licensing issue there? Is that one of the considerations as a no?
No, that's one of the great things about physical books. Yeah. Digital books, if somebody donated a digital book, we have no way at that point licensing would come in. But libraries have been doing that for decades, and there's never been a concern raised from publishers.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to receive this report then, please? Thank you, Avis, seconded by Rebecca. Thank you, not Rebecca, sorry, Meredith, all in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to our next report, which is the Internet Access and Acceptable Use Policy Report.
Hello, everyone. So this policy is set for review. The last time we reviewed this policy was about 3 years ago, where we made substantial changes to it. So there's not too, as you can see from the first appendix, there wasn't too much change, just a few words here and there for the policy. But overall, this policy essentially applies to all members of the public utilizing OPL's internet services, both, the wired, the wireless, the servers, the networks, everything where within the branches that they would use our internet. So I open it up to the board for any questions.
Members of the board, questions on this report? Celso.
So the policy talks about certain traffic being blocked for good reasons. But in order for you to block this traffic, you have to monitor the traffic first. So suggestion is probably to add a paragraph or some language about your right to monitor, the fact that you're monitoring that will protect you.
Yes, so when you, I guess, on both the public service computers, laptops, as well as before you go on the public service, you have to accept the terms and conditions every single time before you enter. And all of that language is there. So it's not specifically in the policy because that's changing the policy we change every couple of years. So that based on what's happening and what we're monitoring and so forth, that changes, regularly.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, every time, whether it's on your laptop or the public service computers, it's there, you have to click.
Thanks also. Any further questions on this? That was an easy one. You got off easy, Joe.
I'll be back, don't worry.
So just on this one, just for clarification, so the amended policy is attached, and today we are accepting for review, we're receiving for review. I assume it's coming back for approval. So this is your opportunity. If you saw anything that you would like to have potentially strengthened or weakened or changed, this is your time to make those requests of the staff before it comes back, because this isn't simply just to receive and file. This is one of our jobs is to actually approve policy. So anything come to mind? Good. I thought it was pretty comprehensive as well. So thank you very much, Joe. Can I get a motion to receive this for review? Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Bill. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question? I'll get you in the minutes, I promise. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 6.3, Program Development and Delivery Policy Update.
So as Jeff just mentioned, we do bring policy for feedback and then for approval. You remember last month we brought the program development and delivery policy to you to add the addition of the reconsideration process. This is coming back to you for approval. The board did request that we add in a line about the role of the board as a potential appeal. I will just point out that this is inconsistent with our collection development reconsideration component to it. It is absolutely up to the board to make that decision, but I just wanted to flag that just is an inconsistency. Because the collection development, the reconsideration, I am the final say, and this has the final saying being the board.
Members of the board, questions on this particular policy? Andrew.
Thank you, Tara. Similar to what you just raised, I do have a question about the request to reconsider process. So on page 3 of 3, it says customers who object, etc., are encouraged to submit a written request using the form. Reconsideration requests are reviewed by the chief executive officer or designate.
Yeah, reconsideration requests are reviewed by the chief executive officer or designate, yes.
So far, so good? Okay. Then on page 6 of 3, it says this request will be reviewed by the manager of program development.
Okay, we can clarify that, yeah. Because generally it gets, it's reviewed and then the recommendation comes to me, but we can clarify that as part of the form.
Yeah, well, I guess that's my question. You know, should it go to manager program development, then the escalation goes to you, and then the final Court of Appeal is the board? Do we want to write that into the policy, I guess is the question.
Well, it is technically in there, a customer may appeal the decision to the board as the next line.
Yeah, it says the request for reconsideration will be reviewed by the chief executive officer, though. So what you're saying is the recommendation will go to the manager, from the manager of program development, always to you? I'm just wondering if we need to spell that out.
Well, I put in the designate because it can change based on the program, right? So it may be better suited that, you know, it goes to the program development manager. They're the ones who put it in place. If there's a director of innovation and integration, that the manager, that it may be they who make that recommendation to me, maybe the manager. So that's why that designate is there to provide some flexibility. Also, if I'm away, that somebody has the authority to do that in there. But normally the first review is by the manager of program development because they're the one who put it in place and they know the reasoning behind it. And then they provide that information up, but I can absolutely see where you see that they don't connect, so we can clarify within the form, perhaps.
Maybe in the form, we even just add, for example, this request will be reviewed by the manager of program development, and then something along the lines of with final review by the CEO, something to that effect.
Yeah, we can do something like that.
Secondarily, and much more minor, but I wanted to question the page numbering, because we've got a 3-page document with 6 pages in it. I thought that should be tightened up.
Oh, yeah. Well, the appendix is a separate document, so it definitely shouldn't have that, but it does have 4 pages to it, so thank you.
Okay, that's all, thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Further comments or questions? Celso?
You sounded a little concerned about the fact that there's inconsistency there in terms of the escalation procedures. Do you have a recommendation? Would you like to make them consistent?
I think it's worth having a discussion, whereas, because I don't know the answer, I guess is what I'm saying. I just know that in the world where we're at right now, libraries are being consistently politicized. And our collections are being politicized, and our programs are being politicized. And we don't design our programs with that in thought, right? We design them for the community that we support. And so I would have no concern with this board. However, a future board, I may have concerns. And that's where my concern comes from, because boards change. And there are numerous examples in Ontario in the last 3 years that have seen senior library staff booted on these types of issues by the board and a changeover in board. So, which has then left those libraries susceptible to damage to their intellectual freedom. There's no right answer. That's the challenge, and that's my question, is that a really solid board absolutely, I think, lends gravitas to these decisions, but boards change. But I would also point out that even though it says that my decision is final, people can always come to the board. The board is my boss, so it is semantics to a certain degree as well.
Would it make sense to give Tara an opportunity to bring this back to where it was before, where she had the final say?
Yeah, I have some comments on this before I come to you, because I had some experience with this week. Anybody else want to jump in, first-time speakers, before I jump in? Okay, Meredith, you're up.
I mean, and I think, just my thought as I'm processing this is that I think there is grounds to, well, it makes sense to me to have the 2 policies consistent, that a program could be politicized the same way that a collection material could be politicized. So to have one procedure for one part of what the library does versus another part, I think there is logic to keeping it consistent. So I would support keeping it consistent. Now, what is that process, I think is a bigger discussion for us to delve into as far as who gets the final and is there appeals. I don't want to delve into that but it just sounds like we probably should.
Okay. Further first-time speakers? Okay, I'm going to take a kick at that, and then I'll come to you, Andrew. Recent experience has led me to do a lot of my own research and soul searching on this particular issue, because we've had some controversy around some books in our collection over the past couple weeks. I've had to respond to a number of them as direct constituents, and I responded to another on behalf of my colleagues yesterday or the day before, I don't remember when it was, on this very same issue. And in reflection, I mean, it's easy to have this as a theoretical conversation when you actually have to apply it to a specific circumstance where you really have to question the wisdom of where we're going with this, and that's where I am this week. So last month I would have been totally on side with, and I don't know, I may have been the one that suggested this, I'm not sure, But I'm absolutely opposed to us having the final say. And let me tell you why. Because just as Tara said, that although we're not a political board, we ultimately are, we serve at the pleasure of politicians. And I have just like Tara has no issue with this board, I have no issue with my colleagues on council right now. I think that they would probably side in the right decision. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the future holds. And I don't think that there's, in my opinion, certainly in reflecting on this and having to actually respond to constituents and people in town outraged by a couple books that, I actually read portions of and didn't particularly have any objection to it myself and did some research. My concern is that if intellectual freedom and collections and the right to access knowledge and information should not be political. It shouldn't matter if you're right, left, center, polka dotted, purple, whatever the case is. It should be universal. If we believe in intellectual freedom, we should believe in intellectual freedom. And we hire a CEO of the library to enforce that view. And yes, and Tara is correct that ultimately we still do have the decision at the end of the day, because if we disagree with her, we could fire her. And it would cost us a lot, but we could fire her. And that's, so, I mean, if we really felt, so it's a bit of a check and balance too, right? So I'm hearing some conversation, some questioning on this wisdom from last month. And while, again, I support it, I'm totally opposed to it now, because I do think that somebody who's properly trained and educated and deals with this on a daily basis and is empowered to uphold our policy of intellectual freedom and the library system and the whole library movement's policy of intellectual freedom, I think we need to make sure it's being left to the professionals. Because nobody, I don't know about this table, I mean, I know we have one library person's been, has a career in library governance, but the rest of us really don't have that qualification, whereas Tara does, and so do her colleagues. So that's my 2 cents worth. I think we should keep them consistent, and I think we should keep ourselves out of this piece of it. We set the policy. That's where we ultimately have our say. Once we set the policy, we have to set it free and let the staff manage it. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Andrew, do you have 2 more cents?
I have nothing further.
No, okay. So, I hate to send it back, but I'm going to suggest that we send it back with some of the notes you made and also to remove that appeal process. Okay. That's my suggestion. Would somebody support that in a motion for me? Thanks, Celso. Thank you very much to Rebecca. Further discussion? All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Sorry to put you through all that.
No, it's a good discussion. I think it's important.
But sometimes actually going through the exercise and really giving it some significant thought and and actually reading what other libraries have done and what other jurisdictions. I read some scary stuff, especially from our friends to the south of us on how they manage these kind of situations. I don't ever want to be there, to be honest with you. Okay, next up is website statistics report. Probably less controversial.
We can make it controversial.
No, please don't.
Yes, okay, so this one's just to receive for information. So last board meeting, there was a few questions around some of the statistics coming out of the quarterly report. So in analyzing these statistics and what was specifically asked, it made more sense for me to bring it back and have the chance to explain them to you. So there's a fairly thorough report, but just to kind of summarize some of the questions and some of the pieces that were specifically asked. First off, on the website, it goes into details, but it is essentially a completely different build. And what I mean by that is, we've, from 2019 to 2023, every aspect of it was changed. And one of the things that contributes to those sessions is the single sign-on. The single sign-on now, essentially, once you're logged in, it stays logged in for 30 minutes, and if you don't use it. So previously on the website, what would have happened was you would have went on the website and you would have jumped to the catalog and you would have jumped to the programs, which are different partners and different websites. You would have went then back into the website, which would have counted as a new session. Those are now counted as one session with the single sign-on because you remain signed in. So that attributes to a lot of what you see in the website statistics lines. The second one that came in was regarding the Bibliocommons login. The Bibliocommons login, why you see the drastic increase is we build that single sign-on portion on the Bibliocommons single sign-on. So we have a proxy that does all that stuff. But so in the past, in 2019, let's just call it, or even 2020, like when you used to go to Biblio Commons, it was just the catalog. So just a catalog of all the books, videos, music, and so forth. Now, Biblio Commons, you log into Biblio Commons essentially every time you log into the website and you put in your credentials, whether you use the catalog or not. So you see a lot of increase there within the catalog. The last one that we go into a little bit of detail is just regarding our application, our native app, through the App Store and through the Play Store, and just data retrieval from it. The big change of why we don't receive data anymore is essentially, so we went back, we asked, we did a deep dive, they don't have it. And what they commented is now every time you download the app or you can change it, you have the option to provide your information to the app developer. In doing so, they say roughly 25 to 30% of people actually do that and actually hit, yes, I want to send information. That's the only information they receive. So we only get a small, like a quarter portion of information. So it's essentially, it's not substantial to give any great results because all those pieces have changed substantially over the years. So the report goes into a lot of detail on those specific elements and the questions. But those were the main takeaways I took from last month's session about the quarterly reports and statistics. So I open it up to the board for any specific questions.
Members of the board, questions? Andrew, you're right off the mark.
Thanks, Joe. I'm wondering, and apologies if this is just me being thick, but when people are using the app and logging into their account, how are we not seeing that? Like they have to be connecting to our servers.
It counts as a Biblio Commons session. They don't have we know that they're on Biblio Commons because no information is sent to the app developer about what's what. They don't have that visibility.
But we know who they are because they're logged in.
We know they logged into Biblio Commons. We don't know if it's on their computer or the app. It's Biblio Commons. It's the catalog.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But we know how many OPL patrons are logging in through Biblio Commons with 100% accuracy.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are but not through the app versus through the website.
That's fine. That just wasn't entirely clear. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Further comments or questions? I have, I want, just for clarification, so on the mobile side, so we are counting Biblio Commons sessions because they have to log in. But do we actually know do we have any metrics, like, is there a metric as basic as how many times somebody accesses the app or we get zero information? Really?
0 right now.
Interesting, okay. And second thing is, this is a comment, validating the data between 2019 and 2023, just an anecdotal piece of information. I note that in 2019, the second most popular item to search for was job opportunities in the library, and in keeping with where we are today, it is the bottom. So from 28,000 inquiries about job opportunities to 5,197, which is very sort of typical of where we are today in our society. So thank you for the report. Members of the board, this is a receive report, so can I get a motion for that, please? Thanks, Bill. Thank you very much. Rebecca, all in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
CEO update.
Perfect. So just a few project updates. This is the same as it was last month. The town is currently in negotiations with the successful contractor. However, a report is going to council on Monday that will determine how we move forward. So we'll be able to provide an update after Monday's council meeting. The Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Facilities Master Plan, we've completed our public consultation. Over the next couple months, Monteith Brown is going to be compiling all that information. We're going to get an initial look on June 23rd, and I'll present that initial look or the key pieces coming out of that at the July board meeting, as well as a timeline about how we're going to finalize that project. I believe it's targeted to finalize now. I need to check, but for January of 2025. So there might be some slight shifting there, but I will validate in July. So summer reading launches, this is one of our favorite times of year. With school coming to an end, the library jumps in to kind of try to prevent that summer slump for not only children, but also teens and adults. So we are about to launch summer reading. We have our official launch on Saturday, June 24th. This year's theme is Discover. We'll be hosting our kickoff celebration at Iroquois Ridge, while we're also including a reimagined creation zone. For those of you who have been to Glen Abbey, we have a very specific and dedicated creation zone. You walk in there, you see our laser cutter, you see our serger, you see our 3D printers, all of that is out. At Iroquois Ridge, it is essentially a program room. So what we've decided to do, or what they've been working on over the past little while, is actually trying to bring out more of the creation zone pieces into that space on an ongoing basis. So that's what we're launching on June 24th. There will be IMAX that'll be out and accessible. You won't necessarily have to ask for them. The Cricut machine will go there, the Budget Maker will go there, as well as other pieces of technology. I think the memory station, so if you want to take slides and digitize them, or VHS and digitize them, that will all be relaunched at Iroquois Ridge and will be out and available on a regular basis. We also have our app Beanstalk that we use for summer reading, so people can track their reading habits throughout the summer and enter to win prizes, which we're super excited about. And we're introducing some new programs, Curiosity Club. Notice that's our value, one of our values, curiosity. Cupcake Wars, Create It with Creative Bug, which is a database that we have with tutorials on how to knit, how to do crochet, how to cook, how to paint, all kinds of fun tactile habits or hobbies. And what we're really excited about is our second annual Cub Car races on the outdoor patio at Glen Abbey. They were hugely popular last year, and we're excited to see that grow this year. Drag Queen Story Time, this was an adventure, but in the end, the people who attended provided very, very positive feedback, and I think just proved to us about why we do this every year. There is a customer testimonial there. Roughly 40 attendees attended the story time, and out of the 12 surveys that were completed, 100% strongly agreed that the event was welcoming and inclusive, which is exactly what we were going for. We held two events, the story time in first, and then we had one a bit later where Faye and Fluffy kind of shared their journey. And I didn't get the opportunity to be in there, but my mother was visiting and she went in and she said it was very moving and very emotional, and there was a lot of love and connection happening in the room, which was really joyful to hear, because that's not what was happening outside. Seed Library update. So the Seed Library this year, staff packaged and distributed over 11,000 seed packets to our branches. So hopefully there is a lot of flourishing gardens happening throughout Oakville this year. We'll be following up through the summer with ongoing programs to encourage customers and teach them how to harvest their seeds and return them back into the Seed Library for next year. Bannock Bake Off, I think we have 12 teams registered, which is very exciting. I managed to wrangle my way onto the judging, which is happening on June 21st. So we're very excited for that event and hoping to make it an annual one moving forward. Book bikes are now out in the community. Our summer students are rolling out to hopefully a park near you. I've asked Joe to compile a bit of a schedule, and I'll send it out to the board in case you're curious or they're in your neighborhood, you can swing by. The first major event that they were at was the community play night at River Oaks on June 2nd, and then they will start being out in the community. Were they actually out in the community this week or next week? Next week. They will have small collections that people will be able to borrow, but they'll also be in the park doing different activities for children, and it's part programming, part marketing, to hopefully let people know about all the wonderful library of things, pieces that we have out there, and encourage them to move into the branch. The summer reading coordinators are also able to sign people up for cards on the spot, which is an exciting development.
Those guys look a little old to be summer students.
They love the camera, though. The Friends of the Library book sale is happening next week, always a popular event. It is happening Wednesday through Sunday, so feel free to stop by if you're looking for some summer beach reads. And then also welcome to Jeanny Lin. Jeanny Lin is my new executive assistant. She started on Monday, and I'm very excited about that. She comes to OPL with over 10 years of business administration and customer service experience. She's a Bachelor of Accounting and an MBA, and she has a deep passion for libraries and a deep personal understanding of the importance that they play in newcomers' lives. So it's exciting to have somebody with her background as well as her passion for libraries come on board. So we're excited to have her.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. So I was waiting for a concluding remark.
Nope.
Members of the board, questions for Tara? Rod?
Yeah, I just, could we go back to the image of the book bike just for a second there?
Sure. So we designed it to look like a Dickie D because it made me happy.
Oh, could you put it full screen? I just wanted to look at something. Okay, you can see it, I can't. That's
IT,
okay.
can we bring
Here's the
that
deal.
slide up,
It's all
please?
right. Oh yeah, I guess everyone would like to see
Yeah.
what I'm about to talk about.
There you go.
From a safety perspective, when that's going along a road, wouldn't it be better if it had a flag up on the back? Just to give that sort of double exposure for a relatively slow-moving bicycle. I'm just a bit concerned about safety looking at that.
Yeah, we can absolutely look at that. I will say they're electric bikes,
It's an
which we put in place just to make sure that we weren't destroying their legs. But we can definitely look at putting a flag on the back. It definitely wouldn't hurt. Added security is always a goal for the students.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions or comments?
Oh, yeah, and Joe also mentioned that we did put them through significant amount of bike training that the recreation department helped us with about how to navigate the road safety and all of that as well. But I hear you about the flag for sure.
I do have a question. I could have asked this of you offline, but I'll ask it here. In terms of the creation zones, have we considered or do we have digitization available of home movies? Is that something that we offer?
We do offer that. Right now, it's only available at Glen Abbey.
Okay.
But over the summer, we are rolling that memory piece out to additional branches.
Okay.
So I can provide an update in July on what that schedule looks like. But right now, Glen Abbey has the slides as well as the VHS and CD to digital.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking more of old Super 8 and 8 millimeter films. We're getting to a point in history where those are starting to be diminished or I guess literally destroyed through vinegar syndrome and a few other reasons why film just starts to disintegrate. It would be an interesting opportunity to get some people in the library that might have these old Super 8 and 8 millimeter films kicking around and digitize them. I know there are companies that do it.
Yeah.
Most of them are in the U.S. There's some locally as well, but I think it'd be an interesting opportunity to bring a new demographic into the library as well.
No, we can absolutely look at what that equipment would be like, yeah.
Thank you. Last call for comments or questions? Yes, Meredith.
I was just curious, we talked a lot about preparations for the Pride Week activities and the drag story time. And so amazing to hear how it went. And I was just curious if there was any, hindsight reflections on, if you would have changed or any learnings to be carried through into next year.
Yeah, there's a couple things that we definitely learned. We did, as I indicated to the board, we did have a police presence, which I think was important on the day. However, it was interesting how many conversations I had to have with customers who were concerned about the police presence. So I think we'd look at managing that a little bit differently. Through conversations with the police, they recommended that we don't hold it in a branch again, simply because the Flay and Fuffy had to walk across the entire branch to get to the program room. In previous years, we held that event at QEP in the black box, which has, of course, the green room in the back, and just provides a more secure space for them, and also an ability to better control access. We did have people who were protesting outside come in and try and look through windows, and we're doing a lot of pacing around, which wouldn't be possible in a more theater environment like we had done previously. So I think those are things that we'll have to look at in the future. We held it in Glen Abbey because our original plan fell through a little bit at the last minute, so that was our solution to it. But we'll just make sure that we plan further in advance if we hold this next year.
I will say that from a councillor's perspective, we on council did get some flack from the community. I don't know anybody on council that did not support it or did not back up the library for their programming, but they're as enlightened as Oakville is most of the time. There are some folks that took serious exception at it, as well as I think that's what precipitated some of these book questions as well. So yeah, that's I think based on what I've read about other communities that have gone through this experience, I think that Oakville came off fairly unscathed in the grand scheme of things. So.
No, agreed.
Congratulations
Well,
to the
and just
team.
about we talk a lot about the customer code of conduct and updating it, and I was curious if there was any issues in for the staff and their feelings of personal safety or their need to enforce the code of conduct, and if there's any learnings from that respect.
I will say that during the event, I was present and I had some conversations. The protesters chose to protest on the street to the traffic versus protest in front of the library, which we weren't actually expecting. We thought that they would be more interested in the library, but they chose to have their signs out on the street. I will say that in the days preceding, it got to the point where I instructed staff to no longer answer the phones. If people left a voicemail, they would return the voicemail, but the amount of vitriol that was coming through the phones was exceptional. Interestingly, the majority of people did not leave voicemails. So there wasn't a break in service, because there isn't always an expectation that you're going to answer the phone immediately, but it came to the point where I did tell staff they no longer had to answer the phone, because it wasn't good. It was really bad.
Okay, thank you. Further comments or questions one last time? Can I get a motion to receive this report? Rod, how about you? There we go. Rod's in the minutes. Seconded by? Thank you very much. Rebecca, all in favor? That's received. Members of the board, I want to draw your attention to 7.1. We have something to discuss here, so I need a motion to go into a session closed to the public. And the reason for that is, in accordance with the Municipal Act, we are going into a meeting closed to the public to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or local board employee. So having said that, I would ask for a motion to go in closed session. Rod, thank you very much. Seconded by Bill, thank you very much. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, it is 7:53. We can probably combine a short break as well. So let's reconvene in closed session at 8 o'clock. Darn. I was hoping to sell them popcorn after the fact. Are we streaming again? Thank you. I will report that, first of all, we are back in open session. To those who may be watching us on YouTube, I want to report that we met in session closed to the public to discuss matters of regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and direction was given to the staff at that time. Members of the board, we have finished our agenda. I will ask you at this time, do you have any new business to bring before the board today? I am not seeing any new business, so I will note that our next meeting is
July 19th.
July 19th?
20th.
July 20th at
20th.
7 o'clock, right here, be there, here or be square. I guess it doesn't work, it's be there or be square, but I can't say there because we're here, right? Okay. So that's the next meeting. Motion to adjourn, somebody? Rod, boy, he's excited to leave. Oh, that's amazing. And Meredith, thank you very much. All in favor? That's carried. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks for your work this evening, folks. That was great.